Could depression and anxiety be made worse by obstructive sleep apnea? And the answer is absolutely yes. It is quite common that when one has obstructive sleep apnea or insomnia or upper airway resistance syndrome, in other words, if our breathing during sleep is under par and our sleep quality, if we're having sleep fragmentation, that we are partially waking up from sleep or we're not getting that slow wave sleep that we all need, this in turn is going to drive up anxiety and depression. In that vein, it's very important that if we do have anxiety, PTSD, obstructive sleep apnea, that our sleep quality is also investigated. Because in order to get to the root and to help address these conditions, it's very important to help improve sleep. By doing a sleep study, you can identify whether you are prone to obstructive sleep apnea. And more importantly then is to take measures to reduce obstructive sleep apnea. In terms of the literature, it's been written about for the last 30 years or so, and even papers as recent as the last couple of years, 2020, that obstructive sleep apnea and depression, the symptoms are often common. In other words, cognitive inability, feeling irritable, fatigue. So it's really important to identify the people with depression who have obstructive sleep apnea and also the people with obstructive sleep apnea who have depression. And I remember in one paper reading it that 20% of people with depression have obstructive sleep apnea, and also 20% of people with obstructive sleep apnea have depression. In another paper, individuals with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, 73% of this group had obstructive sleep apnea. So there is quite a significant link between our sleep and our mental health. We can't just think of, if we're working with somebody with depression and anxiety, that we're just focusing on depression and anxiety. We also need to consider their sleep quality, and of course we also need to consider their breathing. So there's a bi-directional relationship between the emotions, between sleep and breathing, and that always needs to be considered.